Hi guys, I'm Vinny. I retired at 47 after being made redundant for the second time in my career. In this video I want to share with you 10 habits that helped me to retire early. I started investing for early retirement back in my early 20s, but I had a lot of bad habits that slowed down my ability to invest money. Over time, as I became more interested in saving and investing, I learned to eliminate a lot of bad habits and replace them with good habits that supported my early retirement goals. I got a lot of my ideas from books that I've read over the years. I've put a list of these books in the video description, so if any of those might interest you, feel free to go and check them out. The first habit I learned was to embrace minimalism. I used to have lots of stuff that I'd accumulated over the years. Clothes, gadgets, watches, shoes, kitchen appliances, fake plants, candles, wall art, the kind of things that you buy from places like IKEA and shops like The Range and stuff like that. Every time I moved house, I'd have to pack all this stuff up and I'd have to take it with me, and then I'd get to my next house and most of the stuff would just go back into cupboards or it would be stored in drawers and I'd never look at it again until I moved house. About 10 years ago I read a book called Goodbye Things. The author was Japanese. I think he was called Fumio Sasaki, something like that. That book inspired me to get rid of the majority of my stuff. I went through almost everything I owned and I looked at it and I said, am I using this? Have I used this within the last 6 months? And I sold the vast majority of the stuff I owned on platforms like eBay or Vinted. Any money I made from those sales, I then took that, I put it into my investments to help me retire earlier. I also gave away quite a lot of stuff to charity and just completely decluttered the house. One of the things I found was that it really gave my mental health a big boost, seeing the house completely decluttered. Not having to open wardrobes and cupboards and see them stuffed full of junk, it really gave my mental health a big boost. So I'd encourage you to have a look around your house, see if there's anything that you haven't used for say 6 months. Sell all that unused stuff, then take the money and invest that money into your early retirement fund. Or if you prefer, you're feeling generous, go and donate it to charity. Once you go minimalist, trust me, you'll never look back. It's great. The second habit which supported my early retirement was pay off all your debts and avoid getting into new debt. The average household debt, excluding mortgages, is around £16,000 in the UK and around $22,000 in the US. So that's things like credit cards, loans, car finance, overdrafts. The majority of people you know who look wealthy are almost certainly financing their stuff on the likes of credit cards, loans, overdraft payments. Unfortunately, it's now become perfectly normal for people to live in huge houses. They have 2 cars on finance, they have lots and lots of credit card debts, overdrafts, everything's financed on credit. Many people are buying things on credit so they can look a lot more successful than they are. It's unfortunately just become a norm in society now. One of the latest things I've seen, which is even scarier, I've seen people hiring cars rather than buying the cars. So you're paying these car hire payments for years, then the car goes back and you don't even own the car at the end of all these payments. That's quite a scary thought. And we all know what this is called. It's called keeping up with the Joneses, or the Jonesies if you prefer. And it's one of the biggest early retirement killers. If you buy lots of stuff on credit, you're going to be handing over a huge portion of your paycheck directly to the bank. And guess what? You're going to have to continue to go to work to pay off those debts. And some people are in so much debt that they're going to have to work way beyond the retirement age. So one of the easiest ways to retire early is get rid of all your debts and don't take on any new debt. Don't buy things on credit. Don't buy cars on finance every couple of years. Sell the fancy car and get something cheaper that you can buy with cash, or pay off your existing car loan and keep the car for as long as you can. My car is 7 or 8 years old now. My girlfriend's is even older. I think her car is something like 14 years old. We both bought our cars second hand and we just service them regularly and we just keep them running and running and running until the point where they basically don't work anymore. So we've saved an absolute fortune on cars over the years. So get rid of all of your debt as soon as possible. Avoid getting yourself into any new debt and then use that spare cash to build up your investment pot so that you can retire early. The third habit to help with early retirement is turn off the television and skill up. I don't watch television. My girlfriend doesn't watch television. We haven't watched television for, I can't even remember, probably 15 to 20 years. The average adult in the West watches about 3 hours of television per day. It's quite a scary number when you think about it. 21 hours of television per week, nearly 3 full days of work. That's a lot of time for people to sit on the sofa and just take in all this television. I use that free time for things like exercise or doing things that are productive. For example, we'll go for a daily walk and we try and get our exercise in every single day. I also spend a lot of time learning skills like DIY to save money, finance, investing. Coding is another one. I've been in tech. I've been a software engineer for over 25 years. I've also spent a lot of time doing courses that have helped me to earn more money. And I've also had some side hustles in the past which have earned me more money, and I've taken that money and pushed that into my retirement fund. So if you're somebody who watches an awful lot of television, can you spend that time more usefully elsewhere? Could you start a side hustle? Could you skill up to make more money? Can you exercise more? Can you improve your health and fitness so that you preserve your good health into your retirement years? Lots and lots of ways you can spend that free time. The fourth habit was I learned and practiced something called cost per use. I came across this idea in a book called Early Retirement Extreme. I used to buy a lot of cheap products which wore out quite quickly, and I'd have to replace these products over and over again. After I read Early Retirement Extreme and I came across this cost per use concept, I started to buy higher quality products that would last a lot longer. A great example was hiking boots. I used to buy really cheap hiking boots and they just fall apart every 6 months. So what I started to do was buy higher quality hiking boots, and those higher quality boots, they cost a lot more to start with, but they've lasted 10 times longer. And I worked out that the cost per use for the more expensive hiking boots was something like 90% less than the cheap hiking boots. And this obviously applies to lots of different products that you buy. What you're looking to do is buy higher quality products that last longer so that the cost per use is driven down over time. So it's almost counterintuitive at first, but have a look at the Early Retirement book. That explains the cost per use concept in a lot more detail. But essentially you're looking to pay more for higher quality products that last longer so the cost per use is driven down, and over time that's going to save you money, and you can then take that money and you can, as usual, invest it into your early retirement pot. Habit number 5 is buy most of your things second hand, or see if you can get things for free. Almost everything we buy in our house is second hand. It's an absolute no-brainer, this one. The savings you make from buying things second hand can all be put into your investments and help you retire earlier. One of the biggest examples, I've already mentioned this I think, is cars. A lot of people buy brand new cars. As soon as you drive off on a new car, it immediately becomes second hand and it loses something like 10 to 20% of its value. By 3 years old, some cars can lose something like 50% of their initial value. Again, we always buy second-hand cars with good service histories. Mine's 7 or 8 years old. My girlfriend's is about 14 years old. We just keep the cars, we service them regularly, we look after them until we get to the point where the car is no longer viable to run, and then we just go out and we buy another second-hand car with cash. All the furniture we own is second-hand. We've got an 8-seater dining table. It was something like £2,000 brand new. We bought it from Facebook Marketplace. The couple who bought it decided that they didn't like it after about 3 months, so I thought I'd make a really cheeky offer them £100 for this £2,000 dining table. I just took it off the hands for £100. Absolutely mint condition, still got it today. Another example, we've got 2 sofas in the living room. A friend of ours bought these 2 sofas brand new. They didn't like the colour after a year or something like that, and they just wanted to get rid, so I just went round with a van and just picked them up. We've still got those 2 sofas about 10 years later. Second-hand clothes is another example. People buy clothes, they wear them a couple of times, they say, oh, I don't like them, I can't be bothered to take them back to the shop. They chuck them in a drawer or wherever. You can pick those up for less than 10% of the original price. A great example, the shirt I'm wearing now, I paid £5 for it from Vinted. The seller paid £60 for it, wore it twice, decided he didn't like it. He couldn't be bothered to take it back to the shop, so I just bagged it on Vinted for £5. Guess what I did with that £55? Straight into my investments to pay for early retirement. So always buy second hand if you can. Obviously you need to use some common sense on that. Nobody wants to wear second hand underwear unless you're that way inclined. Buying second hand gives you massive savings, it frees up your money, and of course what do we do with the money? We go and invest it into the early retirement fund as usual. Habit number 6, overpay the mortgage. Your mortgage is probably going to be, for most people, the biggest purchase you're ever going to make. Quick example, a £200,000 mortgage paid off about 5% over 25 years, you're going to be paying back something like £350,000 to the bank, roughly. So that's around £150,000 you're paying to the bank just on interest payments alone. The monthly payment on that mortgage would be something like £1,200 a month. If you overpaid an extra £200 a month on that mortgage, you're going to save something like 6 years on your mortgage, and you're going to save something like £42,000 in interest payments. So it's an absolute no-brainer, this one. Absolutely massive savings to be had by overpaying your mortgage. As soon as your mortgage is paid off, you're freeing up a massive amount of your income, and then you can either invest that or you can use that money to retire early. Your mortgage is a massive millstone around your neck. The sooner you get rid of it, the earlier you can start to enjoy that extra money that's coming into the household. Habit number 7 to help early retirement is sleep on potential purchases for 48 hours. If there's something I feel like buying, I'll go away and I'll sleep on it for 48 hours. I call this a cooling off period. How many times have you bought something and then you realise that you didn't really need it, or you got bored of it very quickly and then it ended up being chucked in a drawer or chucked in a cupboard? There are trillions and trillions of dollars of stuff that's sat in people's houses that was bought on impulse, all because somebody was excited about it for a few minutes. So I always sleep on a potential purchase for 48 hours. Then if I still want it, I'll buy it then. And of course, don't forget to check if you can get it second hand. That 48-hour period provides a kind of mental reset, and it allows you to properly evaluate whether you actually want to buy something. And this is the reason that salespeople always try to close a sale immediately, because they know that once you leave the store, you're probably never going to come back. So again, always give yourself that 48-hour cooling period. And of course, if you still need it, see if you can buy it second hand. Habit number 8 is pay yourself first. Pay yourself first is a concept I came across in a book called The Automatic Millionaire. The idea behind pay yourself first is that you set up automatic transfers of your pay straight into your savings and investments. So what you're doing is paying yourself first before anybody else can get to that money. The idea behind this is that you never forget to invest, and you have no opportunity to spend that money on something else because the payment is happening automatically. Having automated payments means you can invest with very little effort on your part. It's a really simple way to automatically build up your money so that you can invest it and retire early. So as soon as your pay comes in, always pay yourself first. Habit number 9 is cut your coat according to your cloth. Or in plain English, always live beneath your means. Most people spend all of their pay plus more. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. I saw this recently when I was made redundant. Despite a lot of my colleagues receiving a redundancy payment, most of them had to go straight from one job into another job. They didn't have any breathing room whatsoever because all their money was owed out to somebody else. Lots of people are living day to day on loans, credit cards and overdrafts. And this is a really simple concept. If you spend all or more of what you earn, you're never going to be able to retire early. And you're going to be relying on the government to look after you. The thought of the government looking after me has always really scared me. I don't even want to think about it. So practice living below your means and saving and investing the difference. If you do this long term, you'll be able to build up a big retirement pot, and you'll be able to take early retirement while your health is still good. The later you leave this, the harder it gets. But even if you haven't started already, even if you're close to retirement, you can still today cut back your spending habits, and you can start to invest that money into your retirement pot. Living beneath your means is a sensible thing to be doing anyway, because when you retire, your income is going to drop dramatically anyway. So you won't be able to maintain your current level of spending anyway. So again, cut your coat according to your cloth and start living beneath your means as soon as possible. The final habit, number 10, is avoid lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is something that happens when your expenditure rises as your income rises. I've seen this lots and lots of times. Somebody gets a pay rise, the first thing they do, they go out and they buy a more expensive car, or they go and buy a bigger house, and their pay rise is immediately wiped out by that extra expense. This is called lifestyle inflation, and many people are guilty of this. Pay rise comes in, I need to look more successful, I need to spend more money on the car, I need to buy a bigger house, I need to buy more expensive clothes. Throughout your life, as your income increases, your expenditure increases in line, and you're never going to be able to retire early that way. So here's what I do. If I get a pay rise, I invest it. If the government gives me a tax cut, I invest it. If I get a bonus, I invest it. Most people do the complete opposite. As their income rises, their expenditure rises simultaneously. And it's one of the main reasons that most people never retire early, because any additional money that they earn is wiped out. So the next time you get an income increase, try to keep living on the amount of money that you're living on today and invest that extra money, because that's a really easy way of retiring early and getting yourself out of the rat race. So that's all 10 habits. I probably have quite a few more good habits that I've forgotten to include in this video. So a question for you guys, have I forgotten any good habits? What good habits have you got that have helped you? Please leave me a comment, I always like to hear your ideas. So I hope you found this useful, guys. A quick reminder, all the books I mentioned are listed in the video description if you're interested in going to maybe check any of those out. If you enjoyed the video, please drop me a like as usual. Stay tuned for more early retirement videos, and of course don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to join me on my early retirement journey. Thanks for watching, see you on the next video. Cheers, bye for now.